Speaking of ugly sweaters and people that tell me my clothes are ugly, I don't like honest people. I don't like to surround myself with those people. I actually do like honest people, but there are just these times it gets really crazy. And they say certain things, because I'm a person that likes to live with a moderate amount of self-delusion. Amen? Yeah, don't pretend like you don't, okay? I like a moderate amount. I don't like a lot, but I like to lie to myself a little. Okay, I look like Brad Pitt in the morning, okay? These are ways I have a little bit of self-delusion, and I know that about myself. And there's always these people out there who want to be honest and tell you about yourself, which is very inconvenient for my self-delusion. And it's been coming to my attention through several people that I like to put words in other people's mouths. Stop it. And I'm getting to you in a minute. My wife has told me this for years, but of course my wife told me, so I don't believe it, okay? But she's told me for years, you always put words in my mouth, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't understand what you're talking about. And apparently, being married to a quiet Swedish person, I guess her emotions. You're mad, frustrated, fluffy, angry, sad and frustrated together. You hate me, don't you? You hate me today. And she goes, I was just looking in the mirror. I'm like, you hate me, okay? So I'll do all this stuff, and I'll put these words in her mouth, apparently. So this last week, a couple weeks ago, I was sitting in my office, and Brad and Chris were there. Never a good idea. And we were talking, and Brad sits me down, and I'm talking to him, and at one point he says, you're putting words in my mouth, and you always do that, Jeremiah. And I was shocked. I do no such thing. You are a liar, sir. That's what I felt. Like immediately, it was this emotion, like, no way. My wife says that, but that's only at home I do that, right? So, of course, Brad looks to Chris and says, Chris, does Jeremiah ever put words in your mouth? Don't ask Chris honest questions. He has no ability to lie whatsoever. Like, even if Chris wants to, his eyes get real big like this. And he looked around the room, and he goes, not since yesterday. And it's like 8 in the morning. I'm like, thanks, Chris. You're a real big help. You do it all the time. And there was this moment, though, where I was like, really? It does that? So last few weeks, I've been looking at myself, and I do this. It's one of these weird habits I have, that I fill in space, and I kind of guess what people are saying to me. And I don't actually do this consciously. It may surprise you. My brain kind of just fills in the space. Your brain's this amazing thing. And it kind of fills in the space of what people are telling me with what I think they're telling me. I know none of you do this, of course. But my brain does this crazy thing where it kind of fills in space. And it was this really unconscious thing I was doing. And it's a habit I have formed. Now, it's not a good habit. It's not a helpful habit, but there it is. It's just a habit that I've formed. And throughout the last couple of weeks, it's been brought to my attention that I kind of do this. I bring this up because I want you to understand something very important as you stare down the new year. Your life is a mass of habits. My life is a mass of habits. William James said, our lives are a mass of habits. Now, a habit is a routine of behavior that are repeated regularly and tend to occur subconsciously, okay? So a habit is a regular routine or behavior, and it tends to occur subconsciously, okay? Habits, from the standpoint of psychology, are a way of thinking, willing, or feeling acquired through repetitive past actions, okay? So a habit is a way a rut I've gotten into. It's my brain. I've done it enough times, something, maybe an emotion, maybe something my brain does, maybe a feeling in a certain situation. And I've done it so often that my unconscious just goes, okay, I'll take over. I know what this is. Go, and go, and go, okay? And this is what you and I do. We live in this space of habits. Think about this. When you woke up this morning, what'd you do first? You shower? Did you go TV? Did you go breakfast? Did you open up the Legos, play with some toys, kids? What did you do first? Did you have your cup of coffee before or after you brushed your teeth? Okay. Which shoe did you tie first this morning? Left or right? Which shoe? Okay. How did you drive to church this morning? How'd you get here this morning? Okay. Did you have to get in your car this morning and go like, okay, must turn key with 4 pounds of pressure and must put, no, you didn't. Okay. How did you walk into the church? Which door did you use? How often do you use that door? Okay. These are our habits of life. Okay. Habits of life. This is crazy. Duke University did a study recently. 40% of your day is spent in habit behavior. 40% of your conscious day, your waking day, is spent in habit behavior. What does that mean? 40% of your day is spent in a level of unconscious. Now, you're not asleep driving or anything, but it's where your unconscious just kind of takes over. Hey, if I ask you, hey, how are you doing today? Good. How are you doing? Good. You didn't think through that. Yeah? You didn't think through that. You don't think through how to drive your car here. You don't think through most of the situations you run into in life. You've been through them so often that they form habits. And when habits are formed, you go into a little bit of overdrive, and out of the deeper self, the subconscious self, it kind of takes over. This is why any of you ever driven to Modesto or something and you don't remember like any of the drive? You're just praying you didn't run a red light, right? You're just like, oh man, how many tickets am I getting? Because your subconscious like, I know what you're doing. Go ahead and think about work or something. I got this. Don't worry. And it drives you to Modesto. And you don't remember any of it. You don't remember lane changes. You don't remember cutting anyone off. You probably did. It was me. Okay, stop it. All these things your brain does is great, okay? But these habits come out of this deep place. They come out and they express themselves without our conscious knowledge. Your habits, I guarantee you, most of your habits, you have no idea what they are. No idea. Unless you have a spouse that's nice enough to tell you. But for the most part, you really don't know most of the habits you go through in a day, your rhythms, okay? So this morning I want to suggest something. That there's something scary about habits for a Christian. This is from the book, The Power of Habits, and it says, when a habit forms, the brain stops fully participating in decision-making. Okay. So when your subconscious takes over, the deeper part of yourself gets in a routine, your conscious brain stops fully participating in decision-making. You kind of just go into overdrive. You go into cruise control. Okay. And this is what a habit is. No matter good habits, bad habits, this is just what a habit is, okay? Now, here's the scary thing for a Christian, and we're going to get into the Bible here a little bit and understand how the Bible sees something like modern psychology telling us that our habits come from our subconscious, okay? And how we're supposed to translate that into having good habits as Christians. Check this out. Habits, from them, for the psychologist, comes from the unconscious. And for the Hebrew, that was the heart, okay? It was that deep self. It was the deeper self that's almost bigger than the conscious mind. And that thing, like when you go into situations and all of a sudden you're just angry and you don't even know why, that's kind of like your unconscious kind of burping. Okay, it's just, and you're like, okay, why am I mad at that person? Why do I want to punch that person in the face? I don't know that person, and yet I want to punch them, okay? This is your unconscious kind of stirring up a little bit when you get mad or sad for no reason. And the unconscious, this heart, has been a mystery for humans for all of history. Joseph Conrad said this. He said your unconscious is like an ocean, and your conscious mind is like a boat on that ocean. The unconscious mind, the New Testament might call it the soul, okay? May call it the soul, is big. It's the thing God gave us. It's this massive space that has incredible power in our lives. It drove you to Modesto without you thinking about it. That's pretty good. Your kids can't even do that yet, okay? Right? Right? This amazing, this part of your brain that God's given us. But here's the thing, for Christians, we know that that deep thing, that heart, the Bible tells us something about that heart. In Genesis, after the flood, God says, guess what? I'm not going to flood you again, but here's the truth. Every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. What comes out of that deep self is evil, is not God. That's what evil means. It's not of God. It's against God. It's just for us. That deep part, really, you know what that deep part is for, that subconscious? Part of it's for your own survival. You learn habits and routines because it helps you survive and thrive in life. But guess what? That's all about you. Jeremiah says this, even better. The heart is deceitful above all else. That the deep part, that deep part of who we are, that heart, is deceitful above everything else, okay? And a prophet's a great person to say that because they see the human at a deep level. God gives them this insight to see the human and their heart and say that is diseased, okay? But here's the crazy thing. Our habits come from that space. Our habits are developed out of our unconscious, out of our hearts, out of our deep space. So what do our habits do? Our habits look out for us. The habits we form unconsciously are things we just do for us. And when we get in and out of these ruts, and we don't do them consciously, especially if we don't develop a habit consciously, it is out of a place that is a little bit dark and disturbed, okay? We can consciously change habits. We can do it, but it takes some time, and we have to see the habits for what they are. Paul talks about habits. We're going to be in 1 Timothy this morning in chapter 5, verse 13. And Paul is talking to these women at Timothy's church, and they're kind of a little crazy. They're these single women. They're not married. Some of them are young widows, and they're kind of busy in the church. They're not terribly evil. They're not like burning down things and graffitiing. I don't know if they could do that back then, but they're not doing that. They're not doing horrible things and killing people. They're just kind of doing this. In 5:13, Paul says this about them. Besides, these women, they get into the habit of being idle and going about from house to house. And not only that, but they become idlers themselves, but also busybodies who will talk nonsense, saying things they ought not to. Now, again, context for this is single women in the church, but I would like to suggest something crazy that this applies to a lot of us. A lot of my really bad habits are like idleness habits. How much TV do I watch in a day? Okay. How quickly does the TV come on when I get home to sit down and watch it, to miss things out with my kids because I'm watching TV? Not terribly evil, but there's this concept of idleness that these women were getting into. They got into the habits of idleness. So it's not just for women at this point in this one church, but I think it applies to all of us. But they got in these habits. And I love that Paul uses this word. They got in this rhythm, and they'd done it for so long that they were stuck. Now, I would like to suggest something. These women probably had no idea. Like if you came up to them and said, "You are a busybody and a gossip," they'd probably say, "I was taking prayer requests," clearly, okay? I wasn't gossiping, we were praying, okay? I wasn't being a busybody, I was being helpful. This is what the problem is with habits. We don't know we do them. We don't know our own habits because we're unconscious to them. So these women were running around, and I like this, by the way, all of us. He says they were saying things they ought not to. How many of our habits are saying things we ought not to? In responding to people, I get in verbal ruts or habits, and I respond the same way over and over again, and that can be hurtful or short for people. It may even think people I'm not listening because I'm not, and they're very perceptive, okay? This is what happens in these women. And by the way, kids, for you, there's this wonderful translation, kids, in this verse. And it says that these women were busybodies and tattletales. Enjoy that, okay? Now, I know none of you kids are tattletales. This is the fun of having children, right? How quickly will they sell each other out? Yes, and it's very quickly. And by the way, kids, if you think adults don't do that, they do. They just use much more mature words for their tattletaling. Trust me, they do it as well, at work especially, okay? Now, we all have something out of this verse, though. Our ruts are in, like, again, a kid, and my kids sometimes, their habit is immediately to tattle. Okay, here's the thing, tattle. Mike is doing something wrong, I'm going to tattle. Titus is doing something wrong, I'm going to tell on him, quick. I see a lot of kids do this. It's actually fun. My kids get tattled on fairly often by their friends. Mr. Fair, Titus burned the house down. Oh, okay. This is the kind of things that happen. He didn't, but it was close. And so there's these things that happen where we get in these ruts, and it's fun to watch our kids because our kids are forming their habits. But if you look at your kid and go, dumb habits, you have them too. Enjoy. You've probably never gotten out of tattletelling. Again, you just call it something different and more mature. So Paul says, these people, us, get into habits. We get into ruts, and they're idle, and we're busybodies, and we tattletales, and we say things we shouldn't. But Paul saw, by the way, who are these women? They're Christians. They're still developing bad habits as Christians. This is very important. The cleansing of the soul that God does, in my opinion, is not immediate. It takes a lifetime. So these women are still producing habits, even in their saved state, that are not of God. Their hearts are still producing things naturally that are taking care of them. We do the same thing in this room, okay? We have lying habits. We have greed habits. Now, you're not greedy all the time, but some of us, when we step into the office at work, a new habit kicks in, a new unconscious rhythm kicks in, and I become this different person who is a little bit greedy, who is a little bit cutthroat in my business deals. But I come into church, I'm a great person, I'm a huge giver, and I swap these personalities because my habits are to take care of me. And I've developed a rhythm of habits that is destructive to my life. By the way, the Greek in habit is also the word learn to. Your habits are something you've learned. You weren't born with them. You didn't just develop them. How many of you brush your teeth? Did you wake up like you were born? I'm glad 2 people brushed their teeth. Thank you for waving your hand. You didn't wake up like, oh, I know how to do this. No, you learned it, and it became a habit, hopefully. For the rest of you, 98% of you. You're still working on that one, apparently. So we have these habits and these rhythms, but here's the thing Paul tells us about our habits. They're not the end of the story. By confronting these, Paul's telling us your habits don't get to win, even though they're unconscious, even though they're a deep part of you, even though they come out of a space that you can't always control, they don't get the last word. Let me help you fix your habits. Because if you can learn to do bad stuff, you can learn to have godly habits. You can have new habits that are developed for what God wants you to do and what you want to do, okay? Now, I'm going to stretch one verse for you, but I want you to kind of understand where I'm going with this. And it's a verse out of Matthew. And Jesus is talking to the Pharisees, and they confront him on a small letter of the law. They say, Jesus, what about this? And he says, look, here's the thing. You are taking your old religion and trying to press this new, vibrant life into it. And it's like taking wine and pouring it into old wineskins. Taking new wine and you pour it in the wineskins. And what does wine do? New wine, it ferments and it expands. And old wineskins, and by the way, kids, wineskins were actually like the bladders of sheep. Ugh. Okay, or skins of like animals, they'd put liquid in it. Could you imagine, kids, somebody walking up to you, would you like a Capri Sun out of a sheep's bladder? You would go, pass. Okay? Oh, but this is what it was, okay? This is what Jesus is talking about. He's talking about these little sheep skins, and they'd fill them up with wine, new wine, they'd close them up, and the wine would ferment, and it would expand. And as it expanded, this new wine would stretch a new skin, and the new skin could hold it. The old skin would burst. You'd lose all your wine. Now, for us, maybe it's not religion, but I think that our habits are the foundation of our life. They are the wrap of our life. They're what keep us sane. They're what keep us kind of composed and kind of keep us surviving, okay? That you have old habits in which you've tried to take the new Christian life and pour it into the old habits. And you're frustrated with this faith in Jesus. And you're wondering, why doesn't this work for me? And most of the day when you're thinking about it, you're a pretty awesome person. You're following Jesus consciously, but then there's these weird rhythms that hit in your marriage or with your friends, and you snap at people, and you don't even know why you did that, and then half the habits you don't even know you have, and you turn people off to who God is. And you're wondering what's going on. Well, your habits, I want you to think of as your wineskins. Just as you've changed consciously how you think about God, we must change our habits, which come from our hearts, which are still being cleaned out, period. You need new wineskins. I need new wineskins. And this morning, we're gonna take a quick break here and sing a couple songs. But I want you to think about these habits that structure your life a little bit, that hold you together. And if you've never really changed your habits, you've never really challenged these rhythms you've gotten into in your life, I want you to take a moment as we sing right now and think about what God would have you do. Just take a moment as you're singing with God, say, Lord, soften my heart and help me see some of the habits. Would you stand with us this morning and sing a couple of old hymns? I split my sermon in half, by the way. Some of you are ready to go to lunch. That's because you have a church habit. Seriously. You're used to me coming up, I speak, we sing songs, we leave. And so I threw a rut in your church habit to show you habits can change. I would like to challenge you with something. Galatians says this, it's a really cool verse. He set us free for freedom's sake. He didn't set us free so we can be slaves to him. He set us free so we would be free, and we are free indeed. And as we stare down a new year, let me challenge you that some of your habits are stopping you from being living the freedom God wanted you to live in. I challenge you this year to take a habit on for your New Year's resolution. As a family today, I'd like you to leave here and think about and talk about habits that each of us can change in our family. And take that on, one only, and take that on over the next few weeks and months. Now listen, habits, we talked about they're the wineskin, but I believe they're really the foundation of our life with Jesus. They are the core at the bottom. If that foundation is messed up, because that's how we're living 40% of our day without thinking. But if we get in the right rhythms with God, that can change our whole experience in life. But if we're in the wrong rhythms and the wrong habits, they're killing us. Okay? Some of you have sin habits that you're struggling with sitting here and you don't know how to beat it. You're stuck in it, and you're stuck in this place with God, and your foundation is wobbly because of that, okay? So what I want you to do is change a habit. Start a new one, kill an old one, change the present habit, but I want you to get in on one habit this year. Change your foundation. Now, this has to be intentional. You can't set up and go like, it'll just go by itself. It will not. Left to yourself, your habits will just stay, and your neural networks will literally become stronger, and they'll become harder and harder and harder to break the older you get, period. So I take that habit you have, think about it, pray about it. Now, how do you find a habit to work on? I'm a big fan of sitting with God and going, Lord, what's a habit I need to work on? He'll give it to you. It'll be fun. Okay? He answers those questions. The questions like, why don't I get a Lamborghini, Lord? Never answers that one for me, okay? But he does answer. If I ask stuff like, whoa, what's a habit I need to work on? He'll give it to me. Here's a brave thing to do, though. Are you ready? I want you guys to try this. All of you ladies, men in this room, kids, ask someone who knows you really well, what is a habit I need to work on? Be ready, because that's going to be real fun, okay? I love honest people, and I hate them at the same time, okay? Because they're going to sit down with me and go, this, and this. Now, your first reaction, ready, will be to, no, that's not me. That's that other guy I judge all the time, okay? No, listen to what they're saying, okay? My wife and I had great conversations this week as I put this talk together about habits and how do they change, and what habits do we have in our marriage, and what are things I do and she does. It was a neat conversation. It wasn't hurtful, but right away, your habits are unconscious for a reason. They're below your conscious mind, and so you're not noticing that you're doing it. So the first time one of your friends goes, try this one, you're going to be like, no, that's not me. It is you probably, okay? So take that, be ready for that. Now here's what you got to do. When you find that habit, you're like, I think this one's my one for the year. One at a time. There's a reason when you go, if you see AA meetings, that everyone's smoking. Because you go after two at a time, you'll never beat it, period. If you're struggling with drinking and you go to a counselor and they say, I want to quit drinking and smoking, they're going to say, keep smoking. Drinking is killing you way worse at this point. We're going to work on smoking later. That's not good. We don't want you to keep doing that, but we need you to stop the alcoholism first. Okay? It sounds like a weird thing to say, and I've said it myself. And it sounds crazy, but you take on two habits, you fail every time, period. One habit at a time. Pick one, stick to that habit, get people around you that are going to help you through it, okay? Now, when you picked one and you start to see it in your brain, watch yourself. It's going to take a while. You're going to watch yourself go in and out of this habit, and now you're going to be like, I do put words in people's mouths. What a jerk, okay? I do that, okay? I do. I am rude to people. I am a busybody. I am a gossip. I do lie, okay? You are going to get nailed with this, and now you'll start to see the rhythms that you go through. You'll see the cues that kick it on. All of our habits, most of them, have some cue that kicks it. I walk into the house, what do? TV on, remote on. Okay, that's my cue. I'm in the house, relaxed time has started, and I'm now relaxing. Okay? That is my cue. To break that, I have to go, wait, why am I reaching for the TV without even thinking? You put a stop in your habit, you've already done the hard work. You've already taken something that is unconscious and brought it up to your own attention and said, what am I doing? Okay, what am I doing? Habits can be changed if we understand how they work. That's out of The Power of Habits. It's a great line. Our habits can be changed if we understand how they work. So if you're watching yourself, okay, why do I get in this habit? Why do I put words in people's mouths? Well, I feel really insecure at that moment because I don't know what they're thinking. And I start to think through with that. By the way, this is not you by yourself. You by yourself is a pop psychology seminar on a Sunday morning. This is a God who is cleaning you out, and he's working, and he's energizing you, and he's showing you who you are, not because he wants you to be a holy, good, moral person. He wants you to be his kid and like Jesus, because it's really the best for you. And these habits are killing you, okay? They're killing you. Now remember, the heart is deceitful above all else. You will tell yourself stories about why you formed your habit and justify yourself. Stop that line of thinking immediately. Your brain wants you to feel good about yourself, that unconscious part, so it's going to tell you stories. Well, you did that because this happened, and it's going to make you a victim. Stop. Stop. You sitting in this room have already done the hard work of looking into the universe and saying, I am a sinner at the core. I do not deserve to be saved, and yet God has come for me. You've done that, you can take on a habit and see the habit for what it is. I put words in people's mouths because I'm a sinful person, and I'm crazy insecure. Not because it makes me feel good or I'm trying to think about what they're thinking or help them. I don't justify myself anymore. So I pick it. I have a friend of mine help me pick it. I look at it for what it is. I pick one at a time. Okay? I move through my habit and I analyze what happens during my habit. Okay? I analyze what's happening all at the same time. Now, kids, listen to me carefully. Okay? I don't want you going home being like, the pastor said I don't have to brush my teeth anymore because it's a habit. Okay? It's not going to work, okay? I don't want you doing that. I want you, all of you, to pick a habit that's a bit of a challenge and think about it, pray about it, talk to family about it. Now, I'm not saying you need to have spiritual habits, okay? And I put that in quotes because for me, all things are spiritual. For some of you to start running 3 times a week would actually help your spiritual life too. For some of you, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, to put an end to your busyness addiction or your busyness habit and sit down with your family at dinner 3 times a week is way more spiritual than maybe trying to get in your Bible every morning. And I know that sounds crazy and even a little blasphemous. But to me, all of our lives are spiritual because we are spiritual beings. Okay? And for some of you, it is. You need to get up and have a quiet time and try and get in that new rhythm in the morning, 5 minutes with God. For some of you, it's to stop something that's killing you. Get in that habit, work on it, think about it, see what God would have you do. Paul says this. He says, train yourself in godliness. The Christian life is about training. You do not get perfected when you get saved. I'm sorry. I wish that were the case. I wish you fixed your life and you're like, boom, I'm perfect all of a sudden. That was neat as you come up out of the water at baptism. If that happened for you, good for you. 97% of us, that didn't happen, okay? We're working on it. God's showing us stuff like, I got to work on that. I got to work on that. But it's God with us. He's with us. He's moving with us. He's training us. He loves us enough. What is it? He loves us as we are, but loves us too much to leave us there? He loves us as we are, but he loves us enough to help us stop killing ourselves with our habits. Okay? By the way, one little trick for your habit, little trick from the book. Habits change really easy on vacation because you don't have any cues. A lot of people quit smoking on vacation. A lot of people will stop struggling with things on vacation. I sleep in all the time. I go on vacation, I get up early. Don't ask. I don't know. I don't want to waste it, okay? But it's weird. Vacations throw a little bit of a kind of a wrench in our spokes a little bit there of our habits, and they make us think about them different. So if you're going on vacation in the next few weeks, think about that. Take some time to go, okay, I want to change a habit, and maybe on the vacation I can start new habits. Because your old cues and environments, your TV's not there, your computer's not there, your busyness isn't there, your work's not there, and you can change some of the habits that are killing you, okay? Train yourselves in godliness, not in wickedness. Train yourselves in godliness, not in wickedness. Philippians, Paul says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. I have this part to play in what God's doing. I don't sit back in a chair and be like, save me, God, go. Okay? That's not what I get to do. I play a part in what God is doing. I don't get to sit back. I'm not a passive observer of my own life. If that is what you would like to do, you are in the wrong faith. This Jesus is going to work on you, he's going to stretch you, and he's going to show you habits you have, okay? Struggles, okay? Anger, lust, any of these things that you struggle with and you're in a habit of, he's going to show you because he wants to help you, okay? Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, the new has come. This is the year of the new for you. I'm picking a habit. I ask you to pick a habit. Pick one. New creation. Let's embrace that promise together. If anyone is in Christ, she is a new creation. Engage in the new. Build the new life with God that he wants for you. That 40% of your day you just move through, let God invade that space.